Missoula Design Review Board. Calling this meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call.
Kate Lickvin.
Here.
Dennis Lippert. Absent. Sheena Kummer-Winterer. Absent. Matt Loomis.
Here.
Kyle Gochi.
Here.
Ryan Smith.
Here.
Brandon Prinzing.
Here.
Blake Nicolazzo.
Here.
Great, and we have quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's see. First, we need to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was December 13th, 2017. Are there any corrections, clarifications, omissions from those minutes? If not, someone might want to move to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Kate. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Abstain? All right. Next is communications from staff.
Yes, we will not be having a design review board meeting next month. We haven't received any applications. And also our long-range planning team is working on their design excellence project, which will introduce new architectural design standards in several parts of the city. They'll be having an open house. I think the tentative date is March 21st, but it'll be sometime the third week of March. So, and I'm sure that they would love to get your input. So that's something to keep on your radar.
Next up is public comment. Is there any public comment on any items not on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to public hearings. A sign package review of Planet Fitness, and we'll do the staff report when you're ready.
Thank you. So we've received a sign package from Planet Fitness. We have today two representatives, Jim Gordon and Dave Leon from Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness is a new gym that is moving into a multi-tenant commercial building on North Reserve Street. This is the block just north of Target. The building also has Best Buy, Ashley Home Store, and Barnes & Noble booksellers. Most of the other buildings surrounding the Planet Fitness are other commercial and retail buildings. The only exception is to the east along Great Northern Avenue. There is an apartment building. The land use designation of the area is regional, commercial, and services. That land use designation is meant to support businesses which require a lot of space and are located on major transportation infrastructure to serve customers from throughout the greater Missoula region. The zoning of the area is M1R2, which is kind of a mixed-use manufacturing residential zone with an enterprise commercial overlay. The enterprise commercial overlay does not include any additional standards for signs. The sign package includes 3 signs: a panel on an existing ground sign on North Reserve Street, a wall sign above the building's customer entrance, and a wall sign on the back of the building. The ground sign panel is 14 square feet. It's on an existing ground sign which advertises all the rest of the businesses in the building and is within the standards of Missoula's sign ordinance. The length of the east frontage is 148 feet, so the maximum area for this sign by code is 148 square feet. The proposed sign is a 148 square foot channel letter sign that is internally illuminated. The sign which does not meet the requirements of the code, and is why we're here today talking about this Planet Fitness sign package, is the sign on the west wall of the building. The channel letter and logo portion of the sign is 188 square feet, and it is mounted on a 420 square foot yellow panel. The measurement section of the sign chapter says that the measurement of a channel letter sign includes any material which differentiates it from the rest of the facade. So by code, we would consider this sign a 420 square foot wall sign. The panel has already been installed. The application for the building permit included a rendering of the sign. We put in a condition of the permit that they could not install the sign without receiving sign permits, and we put that stamp on this page. However, there was a miscommunication between the business owner and their contractor, and they went ahead and installed the yellow portion of the sign without a permit. Here's a picture of the panel. In a meeting with Development Services, the applicant said that the panel does serve some function. It helps support the weight of the channel letters on the corrugated metal facade. In a recommended condition of approval, we recommend that the panel be painted gray so that it matches the rest of the metal facade, which would reduce the size of the sign to around 188 square feet, which is comparable to signs for nearby businesses. Most of the other businesses, both in this building and the building just north, which is similarly set back about 300 feet from North Reserve Street, have been to the Design Review Board and have been approved to have larger signs than allowed by code. At 188 square feet, the Planet Fitness sign would be around 27% larger than what is allowed by code, which is comparable to what has been approved for these other signs. Here I've provided, for your reference, I did the best I could trying to make these to scale. I don't know if they're perfectly to scale, but an example of what all of these facades look like with their signs. The Planet Fitness one is in the upper row, second to the right. And I've also included for your reference several pictures of Planet Fitness signs, both on neutral backgrounds and on the yellow background. And with that, the recommended motion of staff is that the Design Review Board approve the requested sign package based on the findings of fact and testimony heard at the public hearing and subject to 3 recommended conditions of approval. 1, that no signage shall be modified without approval of a sign permit by DR Development Services, and no signage shall be added without resubmittal of an application and approval from the Missoula Design Review Board. 2, all applicable electrical, building, and sign permits shall be obtained prior to the installation of the sign. And 3, on the west frontage, the panel on which the sign is mounted shall be painted gray to match the building's facade. And with that, I give it over to you for discussion.
All right, thank you very much.
And the applicant provided a packet as well. I saw some of you looked a little confused.
So it looks like we have additional documents based
Yeah.
on staff's recommendation. Applicant wanted to submit some more info, essentially.
Yeah, he
Okay.
brought it with him today.
Okay, making sure everybody's getting a chance to digest that.
Yeah.
Discussion, questions, Kate?
I have a question. In the past, when we would see how big a sign was, we would put a rectangle around it, and which would make this a 300 square foot sign. Now it looks like every little individual piece is is that the new rule?
That is correct. In Title 19, it was the, I think it was the largest 4-sided polygon that you could draw around a sign. There was a change in Title 20 that it can be any geometric shape or a polygon of any number of any number of sides to measure the size of the sign.
So to take off of that, so this is under Title 20, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. So the square footage, the 188 square footage, is using a multi-sided polygon around the channel letters
Correct.
and the PF with a thumbs up, whereas the 420 is taking into account the yellow background, and basically it's a rectangle. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Further discussions, questions for staff? Kyle.
In the additional documents that were provided, there's a picture of what appears to be the rear of the building with red corrugated steel. I'm guessing that's from when it was stapled, this picture right here. Is that still there, and is that where that east frontage sign is being placed, is on top of that corrugated steel?
Yes. And I believe there was no detail provided about the color that steel would be. Okay.
Okay. So as proposed, the east-facing sign does not have a detailed background or background color whatsoever. Okay. Under Title 19, and I know that you're at a little disadvantaged because you don't have the history or someone sitting right there. Do you know when Staples was reviewed, to me, the ugly red corrugated background is part of their building scheme and not part of their sign. Do you know from staff notes how you guys looked at it?
When we measured the sign for Staples, it was just around the channel letters.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question for the
Yeah, right.
applicant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Should
we'll
we
invite the
hold off?
applicant up. If you would introduce yourself, and it looks like we have a question for you.
My name is Dave Leon. I'm the president of Planet Fitness. I come all the way from Schenectady, New York on Valentine's Day
Thank you.
because we're opening this club on Friday. We actually opened Laramie, which is one of those businesses in there yesterday. And that sign for Laramie is exactly the same size as the proposed sign that you see with less store frontage.
So my question is, looking at the other Planet Fitness signs as well as the rendering here, I'm curious why you want the yellow.
Because it's our brand color. You wouldn't ask Staples to paint it gray. You know, you wouldn't, you know, our color is yellow and purple, and it's our brand color. The signs that he presented as other Planet Fitness signs are much older signs that are no longer in compliance, and you would be penalized for putting a sign up that doesn't have a yellow background. That's why all the signs that I showed you that I own have yellow backgrounds, and every club that's been built over the last 5 years has a yellow background.
And so to keep the yellow background and fall within code, this would be,
So
I guess, a little less than half
So
the
the way,
size, a third of the size?
The way I understood Staples, the way that he presented it was exactly the way, the misunderstanding that we communicated was that we put our building permit forward. We planned on showing some differentiations to the facade in the front, and then we had our sign that, which is the 188 sign that we're talking about tonight. We and always have thought that any changes we made to the sign is part of the building aesthetics, you know, so that's how it, you know, and if you look at the other buildings in our plaza, whether it's Best Buy or whether it's any of the other ones, they do the same thing, you know, so by his own, you know, entry into his presentation to you guys, he talks about the differential of the background has to be the same color of the building. Well, Staples painted the whole facade red. You know, I don't want to do that. I mean, but it's well within code to do it. You know, and you know.
I think the argument could be made easily, and I think this is how how it went down over time, that the Barnes & Noble building is, I believe it's like a cream color. The Best Buy building is a blue background. That's not the sign. The Staples building was red. Sport Authority, when it was there, was red. It's not just that the cinder block color. Your building, aside from the red part, is the cinder block thing. That's how the building division would have looked at it.
Well, then why didn't they look at it with the existing Staples?
You'd have to ask them.
Well, they didn't, and when you look under one of the criteria, it's fair and equal, you know, and this is the new Staples that just moved down, and they have a red background that's the same metal kind of stuff that we're doing on ours. They did put a little red on a column that could be considered aesthetic.
You might, you have the same landlord as the new Staples?
Yes.
You may want to ask them.
Well, what I'm trying to say is that, you know, we play by the rules. When we submitted our permit, and we don't just do stuff and then come to you for a permit for the letters.
Staples didn't either.
Well,
That's not a design review board.
Yeah, but it should be, is what I'm telling you, because they only have they have much more signage than they do allotted square footage. I'm in the same plaza, they have a red background, and because it meets their brand. You wouldn't ask them to paint that gray.
Unfortunately, we don't decide who comes to us. We only get to talk about who does come to us. So I believe that would be a planning
Yeah,
director question.
I get that, but it's part of our brand. So I guess what I'm saying is, there's nothing in the code that doesn't say, I painted that building gray. It was red. I can paint it yellow.
And you could have taken the red off
Yeah.
and left it as the exposed background, or you could have put a new facade on there. That's not up to us. That was
That's
the
right.
choice of the applicant.
What I'm trying to say is I want to do the thing, I want to do what's right. And I've come to you to try to make the most appeasing sign for the community and for my business. And painting the whole thing yellow or painting it all gray is not. Gray is almost a safety. The gray back. We have this. One of the reasons for the background is that we have a backlit light. You can see what it looks like at night and what it looks like in the day in the packet. And so those are backlit letters. Off of gray versus yellow, even at night, is night and day, you know, for the presentation that we would get, and it's not in our brand, you know. So I would be forced to paint that whole building yellow, and that's not a threat. I don't want to do that, but I want to do what's right. And so what I did is in the back of the packet, I also presented some ways that we could do some aesthetic changes exactly like Staples, to not be considered a yellow background. If you look in the very back of the package. It'll look more architectural like Staples did to their new sign down the road, where we could wrap that metal around the corners so it wouldn't be as ostentatious as painting the whole thing yellow. I'm here to try to work with you guys.
And we understand that. Thank you. You have to understand that this became public information, I want to say, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it went into our hands about a week ago, and the additional packet went into our hands about 20 minutes ago. So
But
we
here's
are
the
not
definition
as
of the code, the way he explains it, right? The yellow panel stands out against the unit's gray corrugated metal facade. Section measurement rules say the area of the channel letter include any material or color that's a different color, differentiate the sign from the surface. So if it was all yellow, it would be the same, you know. So I'm trying to tell you, I can be totally with, if, you know, the only thing we'd be talking about then is the 40 feet of the letters that you know, that we're here to talk about. So if I'm forced to only talk about the letters, okay, but I just want you guys to know that puts me in a situation that I have to paint the entire facade yellow.
question for either staff or the applicant. Who approved the installation of the yellow backdrop, hanger, however?
The way the miscommunication was, we submitted our drawing that he showed,
Mm-hmm.
and we got a building permit. You know, that was part of the building quotes for the guy that's doing the work on the facade.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's doing the sign. The sign letters were different. So we thought, and we always do, whenever we do a facade change, usually an EFIS or whatever the color background, that's the background, that's the facade, that's the building color, and then the sign is the sign.
So I'm trying to, I hear what you're saying. I'm trying to, I guess, rephrase. The building division signed off on the building plans
Yes, sir.
that happened to have a sign element on it, and your contractor did not understand that.
Either did I. And so
Okay.
I'm not putting the ton of.
And it's not on development services at all.
I'm just trying to tell you how it happened.
Okay. So it has nothing to do with what's in this room.
That's correct.
Okay. I'm clarifying. Kyle? Oh, sorry. You went for the microphone. Damn it. Yeah, please.
So back to my first question about the photo of the east elevation, there was red corrugated steel. Has that been painted?
No,
It's still red?
it's still red, and
Do you have any intentions on painting that, or?
well, it would be the easiest thing to do is just to paint it yellow and put the sign on it. But if I'm forced to take it down, you know, and put the letters on the plain building, again, those letters are backlit. It's not going to have any, and you can ask the sign guy, it's not going to have anywhere near the effect as it would off of metal, especially my brand color.
So your intent, though, before coming to the design review board, was to paint that red corrugated steel yellow,
Because it
mount
was
the
existing,
sign.
the easiest, but we could take it down and put a separate metal panel, you know, that and that metal panel with just the letters is under the even still under the 148 feet.
And see, the position that we're looking at is, and Jim can attest to this, sometimes we don't have any type of passionate representation, whether it's owner, general manager, whatever, and we're stuck literally looking at what we have, and what I have is a black background. And so what I think all of us are assuming is you have a channel letter sign that's going on a black background on the east frontage. So what we're hearing now doesn't match what the application is, which is frustrating to me. I can't speak for everybody else, but what you're telling me is not what you applied for, and so
The back
that's
sign, honestly,
confusing.
is not even important for us. You know,
It's important to us 'cause we're talking about
willing-
it.
I'm willing to tell you tonight, if I get the front sign, I'll waive the back sign.
Daniel, do you know hypothetically, and again, these are different, most of us went through zoning rewrite. It was quite a process. Title 19 was Title 19. What we're doing now is what we're doing now in Title 20. If Staples or Brand X were to come in and build the facade that was there, how would that be considered under today's standards?
We would measure just the area of the channel letters on the facade. The issue is, again, the measurement section says that if you have something that's differentiating the area of the sign from the rest
Okay.
of the facade,
By color.
then that would be considered part of the sign.
Okay, so similarly, if Planet Fitness came in and wanted to take the red portion that's there, and let's just say they can't think of the word, but already painted it yellow because that's just their color scheme, and they're putting a sign on there, it would be the same type of thing as you're saying the building is essentially yellow. There is no background.
That's correct.
In that case.
It would be, the yellow would be the
Okay.
facade.
All right. And that is fully available to the applicant before he installed that and before they applied for a sign permit, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would,
But the channel letters would still put it over 108, would still be 40 square feet over.
My point is none of this is a surprise. All of this was,
Oh, right.
was available. There was no well, I wouldn't say there was a miscommunication. There was a contractor maybe not understanding what the permit was for, but the difference of having a yellow wall, gray wall, whatever it is, versus a differentiating background, it's not secret information. It's just so that we're all understanding. I had a question for Kate, our resident artist. Gray background versus yellow background. Daytime and nighttime. Do you have, is there a detrimental color?
Well, yellow always stands out,
Mm-hmm.
yellow and black. Green blends in with the environment, but I think at night you're going to see a yellow more than you're going to see a green.
Okay. As far as and let's say it's dark enough that you can't see the background. So as far as your knowledge of, channel letter signs where the light's being projected, sort of, does it matter in your opinion one way or the other what the background color is behind that?
It's during the day.
At night, only when it's lit.
Oh, at night, it's going to look like it looks on this one picture here. The yellow will
we actually
blend back.
provided a rendering from the sign guy, what it would look with a gray
Goes at
background
night.
and what it would look with the yellow background.
The yellow. You get the yellow outline at night.
Yeah, so you get the yellow outline at night, and you don't get that from the gray background.
I know that I have channel letter sign installed by your sign installer on a gray background, and it looks fantastic, and he never once told me to put it on a yellow background.
Yours isn't halo lit like this is. Yours is a different color.
I'm
The
just
gray- we
saying
have
that
a- I
I have
have a
experience with
rendering.
gray, that's all.
I have a rendering showing you what it would look like on the gray background.
I'm not, can you guys specify, because I'm not finding which one it is. I want to make sure I'm looking at it right.
Here, I'll hand these out. So I can look here.
While they do that, could you put the picture back up again of where it's at with the
Yes.
yellow? Is that gray background then to scale with the sign?
Yeah, the gray,
That looks much better.
I do not believe the sign is to scale in that photo, but the gray or the yellow background is just a photo of the building as it exists now.
I guess I'd have to agree with Matt that the yellow just doesn't work for that. In the
Excuse me?
background. The yellow background.
But what you guys don't understand is I can still paint the whole building, the whole facade yellow, and there's no code against that. you know, and so, and then there's no more differentiating between the metal or the panel. Or I could take that metal off and paint the entire thing yellow, and I'm totally code compliant. I don't want to do that. I want to have the most appeasing sign. That's why I'm here in front of you. That's why I waited this long, even though we're in pre-sale. You know?
We can also grant your request and you can still paint it yellow, so it kind of
That's-
doesn't matter what we say.
What's that?
It kind of doesn't matter if we say yellow background or no yellow background. You can paint it yellow if you want. You can paint it red.
That's right, but what I'm trying to say is that it would be much more obtrusive or ostentatious to paint the whole thing yellow than have just the background yellow. So, I mean, I'm willing to do that, you know, if I have to, but I'm here to try to do the right thing and have a less ostentatious sign.
We're hoping that it can be considered more of an architectural feature than the actual sign.
Just like the Staples just did down 3 doors.
It wasn't held against them in their sign permit.
So,
So we would be willing to, yeah, add yellow accents anywhere on there if that would make it more palatable or acceptable for you.
Brandon, did you have something?
Yeah, could you go back to the slide that showed the different retail,
Oh,
Best Buy, and that one slide that was pretty important? And I'm trying to come at this from an architectural point of view, because I think part of what we have to look at is to make sure that the whole building doesn't become a sign, that it's done appropriately. But I'm looking at this yellow one in your pack, this option B, and I understand your concern about the yellow might being too much, but I'm looking at this and pondering if it's not all that bad, if it simplifies the overall
To have
look.
it-
Yeah.
Just the yellow, I think there are worse things than painting it all yellow. And I wonder what other people think about that. I think, I always try to look at these.
Did you guys get a chance to see the existing Staples?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know yellow is it's a very bold color, it's part of their brand, but, Ryan made a comment earlier about the gray, this option C with,
You have a rendering.
We have a rendering that can show you what a
Okay.
whole yellow would look like.
I think we all have that.
We've got option B if that's, yeah. But way to be on it.
Great, thank you.
Do you have the Planet Fitness sign already built?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
So if we didn't
love
approve
that,
that
right?
size, you're out of sign,
We have a smaller set of letters.
As a backup.
okay?
So Brandon, thank you for that. This is why I love having architects and designers and stuff who can look at it from different points of view. Me personally, I want you guys to know, and the applicant, it's not that I'm here to fight or argue. I want to make sure everybody understands the same thing. We're coming from various levels of understanding and knowledge. You're coming from a completely different area. This, yes, you deal with signs, but you deal with a lot of other things. This is not what your main thing is. And so it's nice to have you kind of understand where we're coming from. You want to be fair, I want to be fair. I have a big thing with fairness. Anecdotally, of the signs that the applicant provided us, or photos of signs of his other properties, honestly, I like the ones with the smallest amount of yellow. And I would like to say, I don't think that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, because we're really not talking about the color. We're just talking about the usage, essentially. But brand colors and brand images, they are what they are. We're not going to tell McDonald's that they can't have. It's all about how it's working in the code. So me personally, I like the ones that have, like the yellow header or, yellow facade, but not necessarily behind the sign. That's me personally. So I'm throwing it out there. If we want to go down the road of, let's bend a little bit, or because we can, if we want to go down that road, I think, I don't know if it's just a suggestion of our part, because we really can't dictate anything architecturally. We can't dictate the color of the wall. All we can do is suggest. I think if we suggest architectural elements, and that's where we have some great people on the board here, I think it would look better with that yellow background, small or large.
Totally agree.
However, we've got to understand that we can suggest all we want. We can't make it conditions. So that's also kind of a slippery slope. And
I think you can, all right? No? Well,
You cannot make that as a condition.
we cannot do that.
I did not know that.
No.
But that's kind of changed, hasn't it?
That was content. Actually, it's.
Right.
I know. Under Jim may remember this. I know under Title 19, we couldn't say. What was the old discounts, sports discount before Sports and Warehouse? Anyway, it was a real ugly just sign, but it actually fit in code. It didn't even go to DRB, and Development Services could do nothing about. Hey, it was their colors. That's just how it was. And if it had come to us, it would have only been because it was oversized, and we couldn't have said it's too plain, it's too ugly. We just have to speak to the facts. So if they were presenting us a sign can that was oversized, we could just say you could shrink it down, but we couldn't say if we didn't like the yellow, we couldn't do much about that. And we definitely can't say we want you to paint your building that. We can suggest it if it's part of the sign, like a sign pole. We can do that. That's my understanding.
Do you remember the movie theater, Matt?
Which one?
The most recent time it came.
Yes.
We requested, or we made it a condition that they paint. There was like a faux window.
There were faux windows.
Yeah, remember? And we said you have to paint those to match the rest of the building.
Yeah, we did.
So,
Matt, I think the only thing you can't do is tell them what to put in their sign as far as verbiage.
That's correct. I believe you can make conditions for colors. Really, the only thing is content. So you couldn't say,
Okay.
you can't have a sign that says this.
I think okay, and so where I may be overdoing it is that with the theater situation, which they didn't wind up using anyway, was we wanted them to paint behind where the proposed signs were going. And so my confusion and where I don't want to get caught in a gray area is if we said, hypothetically, if we said 20 feet away from the sign that we're talking about, we want you to add a such and such, or we want you to paint a barber pole, that's where I wouldn't be comfortable unless staff said, no, we can totally do that.
I believe you can.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm looking at this document the applicant provided of Casper, Wyoming, Laramie, these places in New York, and there are examples of purple backgrounds or other, I guess, purple or yellow. So what was your decision to suggest yellow over purple, I guess?
the yellow stood out. We decided as a brand about 5 years ago that we were going to stop the purples.
Okay, so these are older than
Yeah,
we were seeing?
yeah.
Okay.
And the landlords don't like it. They can live with yellow, they don't like purple.
Well, I personally like option A, which is if they're going to have yellow, make it look like it's a design feature. The only problem I have is on here, there's a little bit of shading behind it, and there against the gray, it just kind of like blends in. The hues are so close. I don't know if there can be like a little border put around it, or that's going to be like an architectural question.
I guess we'll question to the applicant, so specifically about option A. I know that those are just photoshopped on. Would that just be a layer of paint, or are you looking at a projecting panel, potentially?
I got to try to find option A.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But it would be a panel. It would not be just paint on
It would
the
not
surface.
paint, so it would be,
It would match.
A panel-
It would match the building. It would look like the Staples did down the road, where it would match the aesthetics of the background.
the way your current panel is
Yes.
separate.
That depiction isn't real great either, because in the sunlight, there's a great, difference, but
Okay.
you're right, in low light, it doesn't.
What's the depth, roughly, you think, of that panel, or,
It's
Okay.
millimeters. They're
Okay.
not very thick.
okay.
I mean, they could be stood off a bit to actually project a bit of a shadow if that was a requirement.
Kate, was that a concern of yours, or you were just trying to clarify whether or not there was
I know
shadowing?
it's not depicted perfectly either. It's not.
I was just thinking that it would look better if
Yeah, that's it.
if there was more of a contrast between the yellow and the gray.
Oh, totally, okay. Thank you.
Kate, did you see, you got like 20 different examples here, but in this packet here, looks like it came from the architect. There's a exterior concept option 1A, that has kind of a purple border
So
around it.
Second page, it looks like, right?
Yeah, page 2.
And that looks like it's more just paint.
Oh, I see. Oh, and well, how about option 2A?
We
in
could
that
do a,
same
we could
packet?
do a gray border too, we could do that out of metal, that would look like a picture frame if that's what you were looking for.
So option 2, I think, is kind of more representative of the same as option A, I think, or very similar.
What's the difference between 2A and 3? Oh, it looks like it's a little wider.
Yeah.
Do you see those?
Oh,
The last
2
two,
and
the
sorry.
last 2 pages in this packet.
Wider, yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Kate? Artistically?
I don't like the maroon around it. 'cause
Yeah, I didn't either.
But I do like it where it just seems like on option 2, where it just has a little bit of a little,
So
Little
that's
shadow
C2,
around
option
it.
2. So that's this one. That's similar, very similar to proposed option A on the other packet. So it's almost.
Yeah.
But you like the gray border around it.
Well, I think it's not so much the gray border, it's the illusion that it's separated, I guess, right?
Okay. I would agree to that in a heartbeat.
Question for Brandon, because you had brought up the yellowness of it, I guess. Personally, professionally, if you're looking at what's proposed, which I think is labeled as option D, but that is what's proposed. If you look at that versus option A, essentially adding those architectural elements, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I will always kind of gravitate towards simpler solutions and less clutter, being more successful. So even though in option B, that's a lot of yellow, it's a simpler solution because there's not additional elements to the design. I think Brian and I were just talking about option C, the gray background. I know you don't prefer that one, but it's certainly the most attractive just visually from a sign perspective because it's simpler. And I understand that that's probably less successful from a brand standard point of view, but it's more successfully, I think, architecturally to have
Yeah.
a simpler
So
kind of sign.
I guess where I'd go, if that was what the recommendation was to be gray, I would tell you that I'd probably waive the variance and just put smaller letters and paint the whole thing yellow.
Yeah, you never read the burgundy, the maroon on the gray background. The
Yeah.
readability would be terrible
Yeah.
compared to the yellow, in my opinion.
I,
At night, obviously. At night, obviously, it would be great.
It's a lot better. And I think the building painted yellow is not ideal, but the proposed sign, whether the background is gray or yellow, is still a sign that's 283% of what's allowed per
But,
code, which would be the new
I think
precedent.
we're off on that one.
Yeah.
I think you're off on that one. Sorry. I know that's what the applicant, the proposed sign, just looking at the letters, would be 188 square feet?
That's
Is that
correct.
right? Which is 20-something percent?
21%.
Thank you.
Right, but with the background.
With
yellow
the background
it's
under
283.
You got a good point there.
Whether it's gray or yellow, the signs.
If it's the same color as the wall, then it's.
Gray wouldn't be considered.
Yeah, it still would not look as good as being on
But
the.
if it's the same color as a wall, we don't need a variance. It's what we're trying to say.
And yeah,
We-
there's no argument
there's
that
no-
it's not part of the sign.
It's
a
not,
wall.
it's a pre-existing facade, and we can paint it any color we want, so that's why I'm here to try to do the right thing. We already have a backup size letters that would be under 148 feet, which is exactly our frontage. We don't need a variance. And I can paint the whole thing yellow. I'm here to try to do it right. So I guess if you guys told me that I had to paint it gray, I would just take the letters that I was going to use in the back that are the smaller letters and put them on the front, and we're 148 feet.
For just because I have a microphone, I would strongly suggest as a consumer and as somebody that notices signs, and I'm not a professional in the sign field, not painting that whole thing yellow. It's just an eyesore.
I don't want to.
You don't have to. It's
Yeah.
your call.
Yeah,
You'd have to do something to combat the small size of the sign because you wouldn't be that visible anymore.
So Jim, could you introduce yourself if you didn't already?
Jim Gordon with QRS Signs.
Thank you, sir. the sign cans, is it a white can to them, or?
The returns or the side of it is
Yeah.
a mulberry or that burgundy. It's a mulberry color, actually.
Matching the front? Okay.
The face is mulberry and the back is a clear Lexan.
Okay.
So the lighting that shines out the front also reflects out the back and gives you that halo look.
Okay. Because I don't know this, if the outsides of the cans were painted yellow, does that do anything as far as popping the letters at all, at least during the daylight?
I don't know if that's code or if that's brand acceptable. I don't know that.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't see any yellow. You know, we can't paint it. The sign's already made.
Okay.
Yes.
Then yeah. That's more just a curiosity. I guess I'll ask, how about this? Because I'm not seeing it necessarily in your brand image. Why the gray background? Where did that come from?
We didn't want to paint the whole thing yellow. We wanted it to stand out. We wanted just the sign to stand out like a picture frame, like she had mentioned earlier.
But I mean, why gray? Why not white or black or?
We just thought it was the best appeasing color with the yellow.
Okay. Okay, so it's to be complementary with the yellow.
And the surrounding buildings.
Okay, thank you.
So, I guess, you know, I just want to make it clear, so that the choice of the board can either, I know the way I understood it, all you could really rule on is a variance of 188 feet, that's what we're here for. If the only background, the way they see it, that makes it different from what we did, is we put a yellow background versus the gray background. So the code clearly says that I can paint that whole building yellow. So if I have to paint the building yellow, there is no more yellow square. Now we're just talking about the sign that's 188 feet. And if you don't give me the 188 feet, then I have to use the smaller letters that we have for backup, even though all the other stores have got variances that are bigger than mine, that I'm only at a 20% variance. There's stores on Ashley on both sides that had 60% variances. All right, so what I'm trying to say, and with throwing the staples down 3 doors, I'm not getting fair and equal representation here. So I would just waive the variance, put the smaller letters up, paint it yellow, and put the big letters on the back, and I'm compliant, you know?
To clarify, you'll be held to whatever decision the design review board makes this evening, so you will not be able to waive the decision made.
Not if you void it, if you
I could
vacate it.
I could
you're
take
done.
that panel off tomorrow, and all you're there is an existing facade, you know? And that would,
You can vacate their findings.
Yeah, I believe, if you want to use the movie theater as an example, they just basically chose to not install those signs, and that had more to do with change of ownership. You can also, that's right. So you're totally right. Cash and Carry just shrunk it and said, okay, never mind, we'll just do a smaller sign, which did turn out better in the end. You can also appeal to City Council. I don't remember the process because it's just rare, but that's also
that's my whole point.
We answer to them.
The only variance we're asking for right now is for the 40 feet from 148 to 188, because if I'm forced to do the same color background, I'm going to do the same color background. But and if you guys don't give me the 40 feet extra signage, even though all the other people got the extra signage, then I'm just going to use the smaller letters that I had for the back of the building. But I'm not going to paint my Planet Fitness gray behind a sign.
So I would like to remind the applicant that this has nothing to do with Staples at 2230 North Reserve, because that didn't come before this board. So if you want to claim that you're not getting equitable treatment, this is the wrong body to claim that to. You need to go across the street to
But the
Ryman,
other
who made that
businesses here-
decision.
Here's the ones that did. Okay?
We did not, that was not a design review board decision, so we're not discussing that
The
right
Best Buy
now.
did, the Barnes & Noble did, the Old Navy did, the PetSmart did, Staples actually did.
The Staples building that you are occupying, not the new Staples that you're pointing out.
Okay. Ashley Home Store, all of the ones we're looking at, all got variance.
We can talk about those because they were design review board decisions, but
And all
not
the
the one that
variances-
you're complaining about.
Yeah, so PetSmart 60%,
Right. Which one of those has a big yellow background?
Best Buy's got a huge blue background. It's blue.
That's not what I asked.
What's the difference between blue and yellow? Well, you guys.
Because we're talking about your sign right now.
Okay.
And so if you want to compare apples to apples, we really can't.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is that the only variance I'm asking for is, I'm allowed 148 foot, 48-foot sign on the front and on the back. We have those made. If you guys don't give me the variance tonight, I'm gonna put up code compliant signs. But neither him nor you can tell me what color I can paint my background.
That's
Especially-
true. Conversation for the board. Is anybody else hearing my way or the highway? Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry if that's the way I presented it. That's not my, I actually came in front of you guys because I'm trying to shrink down the yellow area. That's why I waited all this time, you know? I tried to make it a more appeasing sign. And if I came across my way or highway, that's not my intention. I apologize.
Question for the applicant. Obviously, you do not like C, right? You're totally against C. You're not going to do C. That's the great option C, the gray background with the channel letters.
Yes.
Okay. If you don't like what the board comes up with, you're going to do essentially option B, but with smaller channel letter signs. That's what you're telling us, right?
I'm going to meet the 148 feet requirement.
Right. And then you're going to paint the whole exterior yellow.
It's not my choice to do that.
Right. What about these other options? How do you feel about those?
I would do anything other than B. I would do.
You just really want the yellow background.
I need something yellow background. Yeah.
Does the board have any feeling about the 188 square feet of the sign? I mean, we're just not even talking about that part.
No, we're not, and I think the applicant needs to understand that we're giving him the benefit that we've given everybody else. When Old Navy came to us, we had them reduce their signs because it was so big, and we still had heartburn over the size of it, and that at the time, I know it says the sign area is 148 square feet. They must have been allotted less, but it was still. There you go. Yeah, it's still 41% over the maximum allowed. We still don't like that, but we still gave them oversized signs. None of these similar ones were denied. To the board, I mean, again, this is Title 20. These are the rules we're going off of. But as you look at those buildings, they all have very distinct facades. Ashley and Barnes & Nobles, I would say, have, multifaceted facades. But Best Buy, that's not a blue sign to me. That's a blue building. PetSmart is a cream building. Michael's is a white building. Old Navy is a giant multicolored glass thing that was under Title 19, and we didn't have any say over what that looked like. So we're really not, the only apples to apples comparison is the square footage of the sign lettering. That's it. The rest of it, we're handcuffed. We're not handcuffed. We're going by what Title 20 says, and we can choose to ignore that. We can choose to go by it, or go by parts of it. Remember to open up a whole other can of worms. This entire application is up for discussion. If we don't like the street sign, that's up for discussion. I don't like the east-facing sign because what we're looking at is not we don't really know what's going there. And I understand what the applicant added, but this whole package is up. Kate, please.
I think if we're going to vote on the 188 square feet being okay, then we need to see how can we make that yellow background look the most presentable. And if we're not going to vote on it, then that makes a difference.
Well, if it has the yellow background, it's not 188 feet. It's 400 and something square feet.
Only if the other piece is gray.
Well, and we're very aware of setting precedent here, and that's something that that Kate knows very well. Is every time we hit some new plateau, we get asked for more and more and more. And well, I agree with you. The letters, the name, and the logo measures at 188 square feet. The next applicant that comes in that same zoning is not going to be treated with a similar type application. We're not going to be comparing it to 188 square feet. We're going to be comparing it to 420,
Something like that.
because that's how it's measured now. If they come to us with just a sign on a building, that's different, completely different. But that's not what we're talking about here. So even though I agree with you that, and so does staff, that the sign, the lettering is 188 square feet. If you take into the background, which that's how it's written, that's how the next hotel or box store that comes in is going to say, well, that guy got 400 some odd square feet, so I want it. And what are we supposed to say?
It's only written there because it's a different color.
You could call it an architectural feature rather than part of the sign, correct?
Um,
As like Barnes and Noble possibly.
As the Staples down the street.
I wouldn't consider that an architectural
I
element.
wouldn't at all,
It
no.
looks like a sign.
Now, if we added more architectural accents to the building to help it blend in.
I would still I would say that if we proposed architectural elements, those would be architectural. I still say yellow, pink, or red background behind Planet Fitness is still, it's drawing attention to the sign. It's a sign.
Okay, what if they had on the top, what if they had the yellow instead of just a box, a strip that went all the way around, a yellow strip, and on the top of it they had a red stripe, and then on the bottom they had a red stripe all the way around.
Red.
Like a frame, you mean?
So it would be a yellow stripe, and then on the top would be a red stripe, and on the bottom would be a red stripe where the gray is. Would that be considered part of the sign?
Oh, you're talking about on the facade of the building. Okay. I think that not if it's not behind the sign. I wouldn't think so, Daniel.
It's a complicated question.
Okay.
What we mean by differentiating it from the facade is not clearly defined. You could say that it then becomes just a design of the facade, potentially.
Does that sound like anything that would be considered?
I would consider anything short of gray, yeah, but.
Well, Kate, I think
I do have to open on Friday, so I have to put a sign up. He's going to install signs tomorrow, one way or the other.
Kate, to clarify, sorry, Kate, are you talking about in addition to a yellow background, or instead of a yellow background, having those stripes?
I'm saying instead of having the whole thing be yellow,
Mm-hmm.
take the height that it is now and stripe it all the way around the building, that height. And then on the bottom and the top where it's gray, put red or maroon or whatever their other color is.
Mulberry.
Okay.
So she wants a yellow.
So just to clarify, Kate, it'd be like option A, but without the
That's
gaps on
connected.
either side of the
Exactly. And
rectangle,
adding
And where the
mulberry.
gray is, it would be maroon or a darker
the
color.
mulberry color.
Yeah.
She wants that to be a complete yellow band.
What would you propose for that material? I mean, would you paint that? Would you paint it, or would you
We could use
They're-
metal.
Yeah, they're aluminum panels now, I believe.
like the ones that are up
Yeah,
there?
Yeah.
yeah.
So if
Yeah.
we did a strip, or if we recommended a strip, you would use aluminum panels for
Yes,
that strip?
sure, sure.
Or if we went with A, you would use aluminum panels for those corner pieces?
Yes, sir.
I think what I'm hearing the board say is that we're not in favor of the backing on behind the channel letters, because it makes it appear like it's a big rectangular sign, and that's how it's gonna be measured in the future for precedence. But if we were to make it more of an architectural element and make it tie into the facade of the building, it'd be something that it's more palatable for us. That's kind of what I'm hearing everybody say.
I still think a yellow building with letters that fit code is better than that.
I would agree.
That yellow is so,
Well,
There's
it's
no
also,
offense,
the
but-
yellow on this rendering
different yellow.
is
Do you have-
brighter than the,
Samples of yellow.
Printers, it's.
Than the yellow
Yeah.
printers, I mean, I don't.
It's more
I don't have
obnoxious.
samples
You
of
can
yellow
see,
on this one.
the yellow on the building, that's an actual picture. You can see it's not ostentatious.
So
Looks
just,
similar to
just for
the
spits and
sign.
giggles for eyeball test,
I would be willing to
Yep.
paint a softer yellow behind that. too.
guys, am I saying a similar yellow to Best Buy just for comparison?
It looks pretty close.
Okay. I'm the wrong guy to ask about colors. Well, that's a lot better than yeah, neon yellow. But which is, and I know different printers, that's
Well, the actual printed logo, that would be an accurate representation of the yellow, right? The thumbs up,
Yes, sir.
that would be the yellow. That's a little
well, depending on
more orangey. Oh, yeah, I guess you're right.
You have all the shapes and colors of all the signs coming in. I guess I'm not a fan of the yellow.
I have a question regarding the secondary color. Is it maroon or purple?
It's mulberry. It's a off of purple.
Kind of in between.
It's kind of like a purple pink.
Okay.
I think I'm just concerned that we're, setting a precedent that is not in favor of where we want to go.
People, though, that drive by aren't going to know that we're setting a precedence or not setting a precedent. It's going to be what it looks like. And I had a friend who had a yellow that she painted her house, and it looked great in a little square, but when she put that whole thing up, it was just really obnoxious. And this could get to be that way if it's
Well, that's
too
why I'm
yellow.
here, guys. I'm trying to do something that's less obnoxious, but still have the yellow background. So that's why we thought the option C, where it goes in the four corners, would definitely be a constructional feature.
So question for staff, how would it be recorded if we, for the record, I mean, would it be recorded as 420 square feet or would it be recorded as 188 for future precedents? If we did some.
Using the yellow to differentiate it from the facade would be measured as 420 square feet precedent. So if, the next business that goes in would be allowed to have a sign to 420 square feet.
Even if we went with like an option A type and he adds these other aluminum yellow panels and kind of makes it tie into the facade, we're still going to go down in the books as
I would say it's
420.
I would say, and this is just for
I have a question for you, though. If that's the case, well, why did Staples not have to do that?
all right. So I'm going to ask the applicant one last time to stop talking about the staples.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay.
I would say for officialness that yes, staff would still call it a 420 square foot sign, although our argument against future copycats essentially would be, well, you can call it what you want. It's an we accepted it because XYZ, because architectural this or because of this, and that's our decision, and that's ultimately, if that's what we went with, I would. That's just a suggestion as why we could go with it. We could go with it because that's just what we like, and that's it's fair to the next person for us to be able to explain ourselves and not just say, well, we gave this guy more than we want to give you, which is not how we operate. I have a question for the applicant or for Mr. Gordon on option A. I'm looking at, which is on option A, I'm looking at it illuminated at night, and it does have a yellow outline. Are those not the same signs that we're going to be looking at?
Yeah, you'll get the reflection of the background color.
That's the background color.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's what that is.
Okay, that explains that then. Okay.
So I'm an engineer. I'm not an architect.
Okay.
So I'm curious how Dennis and Ryan and Brandon, how you guys feel architecturally about an option A.
I think Brandon and I both prefer option B. Not just
Just for the Ryan and Brandon to clarify for the simplicity of it, for the less is more, even when it kind of is more, but it's still less.
And I think with the right yellow, it could be successful. I completely understand Katie and Dennis's point of view that some colors might be a bit much, but given the risk of us setting a precedent that is maybe not in favor of the future of signs in Missoula, and just for the simple fact that it could be a simpler solution rather than tacking on, you know, different corner pieces and complicating it and making it look more like a sign. I would advocate for kind of integrated architectural elements as opposed to option A and option C. I wish we could look at a color sample of what the yellow would look like. That would kind of be where I would want to go with that. So.
You don't think that sign looks like a big banana sitting out there?
I think it's risky, you know, playing favorites over colors when everyone likes. You might like a yellow, I might like it. You know, it gets really gray about purples and reds, and I think that's a slippery slope because you look at Best Buy and there's a lot of blue there. And I think most people prefer blues, but I think it's dangerous to say, oh, I personally don't like yellow, therefore this applicant can't do yellow because I don't like yellow.
I like yellow, but I don't like it that much yellow. You know, I think it's distracting.
And on that point, on option B, with the large yellow sign sort of dwarfing the Planet Fitness lettering, is that to scale, or would it be more like the option A scale?
Well, if I got the smaller letters, it would, now you'd have a big yellow sign with small
Yeah,
letters.
that's what I'm referring to.
Yeah,
I'm asking if
so I guess
the
what I'm
scale is right
asking the
here.
board is what I'm trying to tell the board is if we take the background thing away from it, where the differentiated color is no longer the differentiated color, it's all the same color, we're just voting on the larger letters.
I understand that you want to be done or whatever, but I'd like an answer to
I'm sorry, I
that
didn't
question.
understand your question then.
So this example here
That's
shows a large yellow sign with what appears to be smaller letters than option A. If you look at the scale of letter to sign, this seems to be smaller letters. These seem to be larger letters in the same area. Am I right? Which is the scale we'll be considering?
Let me just.
So see how like so much yellow.
These are both same scale signs. These are both scale. They just look smaller letters because the fact that we hit it back on yellow. That was my point. If I don't get the variance, I'd have to go even smaller letters.
Right, okay.
They're the same size letters on both.
Okay, got it, thank you.
So, question for the applicant. So if you got a variance on the channel letter size overage, the 188, with the recommendation or the contingency that you have to paint it has to be yellow, all yellow background, would you go with aluminum panels for the entire yellow area, or would you paint the corrugated steel yellow?
I would paint the corrugated steel a softer yellow.
And then remove the yellow panels that have been installed?
We tried to match the whole thing. The whole reason for putting the flat background is so that the backlit light off the corrugated metal, it doesn't show up as nice as it does with a flat background.
So I just want to make sure the board understands that there would still be a different material behind there in a rectangular shape. It'd be the aluminum panels. It'd be the same color as the corrugated steel, but you'd still see that. If we gave them the 188, but what he's saying is they would void their application, leave the panels there, paint the steel, and go with a smaller channel sign, which he has every right to do.
Well, no, that panel is still 420 feet.
No, but
if it's the same color though, then that's out.
If it's the same color, even if it's different material, it's still same color, same background.
So
that's my point. That was my point.
So the potential drawback there, and you may not notice it from further than 10 feet away, is that you've then got up close, you've got two distinctive wall materials, textures. And again, that's more of a you guys think?
So, I guess my question for staff is, if any sign color matches the color of the building, it can be any size, as long as the letters fit into the room.
Allow me to look it up, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the appeal of like an option B, is the cohesiveness of all yellow corrugated steel, 10 letters just mounted on the facade. But if there's a little border of a different material color, I'm not sure that it would look that nice.
I've got a question for Mr. Gordon. Do you happen to know on the previous Staples that was there, if their signs were mounted straight to that corrugated steel, or, okay,
They're direct mounted to the corrugated,
okay, thank you.
but they weren't backlit. They were just front lit channel letters.
No, I understand, yeah, and I'm not comparing sign to sign. I just wanted to see if there was another backing panel there or not. Thank you.
And I have an answer for Ryan's question. It is any material or color used to form a background for the sign. So even if the panel was painted the same color as the rest of the facade, because it's a different texture, we would consider it part of the sign because it's differentiating in terms of texture.
So the applicant would not be allowed to slap smaller letters on there?
We'd have to cover it in aluminum then. We'd go,
Or-
we'd go with panels.
Or take, or.
We'd
or-
use the same
or take-
material
or
and cover
take-
the whole thing.
Or take the metal off and
Or-
just paint the whole thing yellow.
Well, that's, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going down a road, and I can always just turn around and come back. Question for the applicant: the sign in Laramie, did you say those are the same size as what you're requesting here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you opposed to a horizontal layout, or will it not fit on that facade?
It wouldn't fit within that square, I don't think.
No.
That would have to be altered to allow.
Correct. Sorry. Yeah. Forget the background panel that's there, but on the building facade in total.
It's not standard with our brand. We try to stagger them like that in the front of the buildings, but I'm not totally opposed to it.
And thank you. And the only reason I'm asking is, and that does, you've got that one, or there's one, and maybe it's an older one in New York where it's Planet and then Logo and Fitness. And I'm just wondering to the people at this table if having that with a slimmer yellow background, if that makes a difference to anybody. Potentially, if you use the horizontal layout.
But the problem is there, the damage is already done, the product's already up, so if I have to take it off, I'm gonna take it all off. I have to get the sign, I gotta get open on Friday.
And we've got to come to a determination.
Yeah.
I think the trick with that, Matt, is that surface area would then be considered a sign.
It would
A horizontal configuration.
It would be, and without measuring it, it would probably be less than 420, but maybe not as much.
Yeah.
But the yellow background, yes, would still be considered a sign.
Unless you make it an architectural feature.
Unless we make it an architectural feature, it would still be considered a sign, but that would be hypothetically, that would be why it was approved, hypothetically, as opposed to adding corner pieces to make it, it's in the same vein, just different. Yeah, no, it is, yeah, and that's why we can forget I even brought it up, but that's why it's different. It's something.
He makes a statement that per code, because the panel is a different color than the facade, it is included in the measurement sign area. If it was not, it would not be included in the sign area. This is on his own statement, and it is per code.
But you just read the ordinance.
No, he-
It includes material.
Yeah, the ordinance says material.
We can always, someone can always make a motion. We can always put something to vote. We can go nowhere with that and come back to discussion.
So this is what I would propose, is if you're going to think about a discussion, then I'm leaning, if I have to take the material off, if it's going to be counted as a sign, I would take it off to get the bigger letters and just go with the 188, which is the 40-foot. We would just remove the metal that's there now.
Keep the gray.
No, I can paint it any color I want then.
I know you can, but
Yeah, no, it wouldn't be gray. So I'd have to go with small letters.
so Mr. Gordon, you're saying that there's functionality to having a flat surface versus a corrugated.
There is. The light, the halo light, it's going to be much better on a flat surface. Nice, even.
To ask him to take the yellow off is like asking T-Mobile to take the pink off. I mean, that's our branding colors. The thing is trying to make it look good.
I think we're kind of over the taking the yellow off. The applicant's not going to get your paint off the seat anyways, and so that's kind of gone. It would be all yellow, or trying to incorporate some kind of a yellow band architectural feature. That's really what's in between. Or be flat out 9, just put the smaller letters.
With a yellow background.
With the yellow
Yeah.
background, so it's kind of like a,
If,
like B, the smaller letters,
Yeah.
which I think worse than giving the variance for the larger letters on all yellow, because then you got this, I'm kind of like, I think
I agree.
the scale of the letters, the 188 is appropriate for the facade. So, I guess let's as a board discuss all yellow versus a yellow band architectural feature.
Well, we're not really picking all yellow, that's just specific. We're picking whether or not there's, we could assign background, we could pick all yellow. No, it's picking whatever we want.
We can make it a condition of approval, say all yellow, aluminum panels.
we can do that. We can say paint it brown, which doesn't serve anybody. But yeah, if we move to approve and we add further conditions, then we can state those things. We can say your letters need to be larger. We can say, you have to paint it except for this one spot right here.
Could we just go one by one and see where we're at? Or is that not allowed?
Well, we can. I would recommend that it was during a discussion part of a motion, so that we're closed to the public for that. And you can always, whoever makes a motion can always withdraw the motion, which ends that, or if it fails on vote, it also ends that. That's how you would get to that. Yeah.
May I ask one more question
Blake.
before that? Do you have a brand style guide that shows the exact yellow?
This is the Means and Methods magazine. This is the book.
Great. So that's brand standards?
Yes.
Great. I'd
Means-
love to see that.
Means and
Thanks.
Methods. This actually came out of our book. It's on the back, it's in the packet. The way they staggered the logo off to the side.
No.
Is it in this one?
Yes. Right in the middle of that. Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
I would entertain a motion if there is one.
So a motion to discuss would not adjourn this meeting. We would take time here and now
it
and
would-
then come back to public.
Well, it wouldn't be, so hypothetically, Blake, if you made a motion, it would actually have to be to approve or deny, subject to whatever conditions. After there's a second, if there's a second, then there's a discussion period. After that discussion, if you chose to withdraw your motion, then it would just wipe the motion out.
Okay.
I guess I would make a motion to either approve or deny the,
Well, it has to be one or the other,
okay.
but you can always take it back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll make a motion to deny the applicant's request per the staff's recommended conditions.
Or approve it, but with the staff's recommended conditions?
No.
Or just flat out? Okay. So we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I don't understand the motion.
Okay.
I don't either. I'm just
Okay.
trying to vote on this.
Okay.
The staff has recommendations
Yes.
for the motion.
For approval. So you could move to approval, you could move to approve with the staff recommendations, which is essentially granting oversized letters,
Okay,
but a gray background.
okay. But I can't make a motion to deny that.
I think you could just make a motion just to deny the application period.
Okay. Then I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? I will second it. Do we have discussion? Let's actually, well, Kylie, go ahead.
Well, we're all here to be public servants and to work with the public, and I don't think the applicant's coming from a bad place, and so I would not be supportive of just flat out denying the applicant. And plus, I think the alternative is smaller scale letters on a yellow background, which also would not look as good. So I'd really like to come to a resolution tonight. And I see two options. I see 188 square foot general letters on a all yellow aluminum background for the entire facade, the corrugated steel to cover the corrugated steel, or the option of like an option A type that's presented where, you know, not the entire facade is the yellow aluminum panels, but maybe just the corners plus the area behind the sign. So I'm hoping that together we can come up with a solution for this applicant. So
Thank you.
he's not left with just slapping up the smaller sign.
Yeah, I think with the smaller lettering, that could be approved.
You like the smaller lettering?
Yeah.
Blake, let's go down to that end. What are your thoughts?
Okay. My thoughts are that it's most important to have something beautiful for this beautiful place where we live. And so from my aesthetic, I would vote for option A, maybe with a couple modifications, but not much. I think it maintains the gray background, offers the yellow background for the pop of the logo. My objection to option B would be that it's very, while it's simple, and I like simple, it's also, to me, looks pedestrian versus something that has a little bit more interest to it, which option A does satisfy.
I agree with Blake.
Blake, you said a couple modifications. What would you like to see modified there?
Well, I look at this, you know, the brand style guide, and I see the top and bottom striping, which could add some distinction, but I'm not sold on anything. It's just to open up that maybe with option A, should we have some interest in adding something that beautifies it, that would be open to discussion.
Brandon?
I would support option B. I know that I might disagree with a few people here on the yellow, but I think that's a simpler solution and integrates with the building's architecture better. I do think there is a different kind of standard, this might not be the best way to put it, with buildings on Reserve Street than maybe other locations in and around town. So I think it's within their brand standards, and I would support option B.
We are
over
close to
option A.
public comment right now.
Just don't know which one is option B that he's talking about.
Sorry.
I did give
It's
two.
the all yellow one.
Okay.
All yellow. That's my personal take.
I want to go to Ryan, but I guess actually, Ryan, you go ahead first, because I think my question will be for both of you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that, you know, just like Best Buy, it's channel letters on a blue building. This would be, I would prefer to see channel letters on a yellow building versus a 420-foot yellow sign.
So 2 questions actually for you guys along those, and I really appreciate the point of view that you're putting towards this. To me, the difference between, well, if we're just comparing Best Buy, I guess, is that it's not just a blue like facade; it's more of a blue building. Do you not differentiate there? Because to me, it's this, and part of it's because it's superimposed. But to me, having a giant yellow background dwarfs the entrance, dwarfs the columns, and that's just me. And so I'm curious if you guys, that's not really a big deal.
Well, no, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I think part of it is that the way this building's designed, the corrugated metal is sitting on top of those columns. And so it's distinct as opposed to the Best Buy, where the blue is actually running down.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Past the windows, which, yes, I think that's preferable.
Okay.
And this
If
is,
that were-
this is an illustration. It's
Yeah.
not reality, and you would get texture in that yellow with the corrugated horizontally. So wouldn't it look exactly like this is a representation, so.
And I think that's part of
Sure.
trying to visualize. The other thing is, so if your preference is all yellow background, do you take into consideration, so if that were your preference, you essentially have 2 options then. Well, you have many options, but be down to 2 options. One would be, we recommend option B, and we think you should do this, but we're going to allow the oversized sign. The other would be, you know what, we're going to deny it, or we're going to propose something that you're not going to like, and then you're going to take your ball and go home, and you're going to paint it yellow anyway with the smaller letters. Because of the take it or leave it attitude, do you feel that it warrants the larger letters, smaller letters?
Well, by shrinking the letters and then being in compliance, then we're in compliance and we're not setting a precedent.
Right.
And I would be in favor of that.
Okay.
I would feel the same.
Would you guys be in favor of, you mentioned the like yellow corrugated steel, that what if it was yellow on flat aluminum pad?
I think you'd be setting that precedent then with the material in Title 20.
If you're saying the entire
If the
thing.
whole thing, yeah.
He could do that. He could withdraw his application, do flat aluminum yellow.
I would rather see the texture in the facade.
Yeah, I think that would too.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, without us coming to a resolution and making a contingency on the requirement or on the application, the variance, he could do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's awful.
Okay. So,
So you're asking for smaller letters and a yellow corrugated background?
I'm not asking for anything, I guess. I'm saying that I think meeting code is sufficient.
but yeah, so you're saying that if you just take all this away and you do smaller letters, full yellow background, you're okay with that design essentially?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So Kate, why don't you go ahead?
I agree with Blake, totally.
Okay. Is the option A? And then
Complete yellow background?
option A has the architectural components.
See this option A? Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
There
Okay.
you go, thank you.
Yeah.
and then Dennis, how about you?
I'm kind of torn between A and C. Just so much wrapping around on A. And then C, it's not so much.
Yeah. We can always, you know, on principle say that, but yeah, we
Yeah.
know the reality behind it, yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I'm fine with that.
I like C in theory. I can, pardon the pun, I can see how that might wash out the lettering though. Sorry, haha, the staff's recommendation. Staff's recommendation. But I can visualize how that might, we're,
Can I ask a question?
you cannot, we're closed to public
Oh,
comment
sorry.
right now. So I can understand why that might wash out the lettering. So, you know, moving past that, I understand that how Ryan and Brandon are looking at it. It could work. It's a big building, so maybe having a giant yellow background is not the worst thing in the world. I'm trying to think. I mean, Ross up the street kind of has a big blue background. I'm trying to sell it to myself. I mean, Target. You know, there are other cases of similar things. I like this type of this option A, this style, because I think even though it adds more yellow than what we want, it's a little bit of a compromise. If I were to vote for that, the reason I would be voting would be because it makes it more aesthetically pleasing. To me, it's an architectural component, as long as it's not just painted, which they seem to be in agreement with. I want to do one of the reasons why we're here is we were reviewing design, and I'm bad with quotes, but you know, Blake was kind of onto it that we're preserving the visual appeal of our city or something along those lines. And because the applicant chose to come to us, we get to do that. And you know, they may decline, and that's okay. But that's why that's why we're here. We're here to do what we think is best, first and foremost for the city. What we've been choosing to do over the years is also work with the applicant, which I think is absolutely what we should do, because we might be an applicant ourselves one day. I don't like the take it or leave it attitude, and that's what I'm hearing. I'm not going to deny something out of spite, but it does make me think, well, okay, what are the realistic options if the applicant doesn't like what we're suggesting? So I think we kind of understand that. I think we need to understand and decide if that's viable for us to go with smaller letters and yellow background, or if we'd rather see something else. Kate.
Didn't you also say that the yellow thing behind the lettering is for support?
It's
If you took that down, there's going to be less support for those.
there's
Channel
still actually support what it's there, and I will invite you to correct me if I'm wrong. What it's there for also is for better illumination.
It does add support as well.
It does add support.
Another layer of something, you know, to
Okay.
attach to.
But there have been signs attached to that facade before, and it's not going to get put up without, I believe it's the building department saying it's okay to do so. Okay.
So, this is a tough one. This is. I like the corrugated steel. And I like the gray color. And I like making the yellow an architectural treatment and not a sign. I think I would agree with Blake and Kate that I'm in favor of option A with some slight modifications, like a mulberry border around those. And I think if I made that recommendation, I would also make a suggestion or recommendation to staff that this goes down in the books as a 188 square foot sign because we feel it's an architectural treatment and not part of the sign. So then we're not setting the precedent. And I think staff would consider that based off of our recommendation. So those are my 2 cents. I like this. I like the corrugated steel. I'd hate to see it be covered up with a flat surface.
Thank you, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, staff could say, no, we still think it's a different material and it's 420 or whatever.
I just trust Daniel to make incredible notes about, here's how it is officially, but the decision was made because.
Right.
I mean, if I'm looking at option A, and I can agree with what you guys are saying about option A, but I look at that sign, and they're going to look at that sign as being bigger, and we're going to set a precedent for a 400 square foot sign. I mean, another applicant's going to come in and say that middle portion, at least, at the very least, is a 400 foot sign. The pieces on the corner might not be; those are architectural features. But that middle portion, that's a sign.
It's a gray
Absolutely.
area though.
It's-
It's a gray area because
And I agree with both of you. I mean,
in my humble opinion, I think it would be like an Ashley type situation. You have different material, you have a different color behind that Ashley sign. Well, that wasn't measured with the whole gray area. It was measured with the Ashley sign.
and I
Yeah.
Matt,
Kate,
what if we did the mulberry stripes like that? It would look more architectural.
it might. I see. Okay. I mean, that might separate it a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of like the fake windows on the
Like
movie
all the way
theater.
across, yeah.
So that way it's attached, if you will.
Yeah, maybe that would kick it into the
I think a good question for staff. I think with Ashley, that face is on an entirely separate plane from the rest of the building.
Correct. It's
Okay.
supported by two, it's not attached.
Okay. So in that case, we were just looking at the lettering on a wall,
Yeah.
right?
It was a sign that was, when the building first went in 1995, they included several signs for DRB, and it was one of the signs originally approved for garden sports.
That's
So
right.
It's a little strange, but that's the history of that sign. But measured, it is, I think the entire panel is 188 square feet. I couldn't find a record of exactly how large the channel letters are,
Okay.
but that's where that sign came
181.
So question for staff, if we went this route and we said, we encouraged you to record this as a 188 square foot sign, is that something that staff could discuss internally and consider?
Well, the next tenant of this space would be able to essentially put a sign of the same dimensions on that same area. Potentially, yes, that would be something we'd consider. And in terms of precedent for other DRB cases, we would consider that you call that an architectural detail, not part of the sign.
Right, okay.
But staff does bring up a good point, and we're hoping, just like with any other business, that the next tenant is in 40 years or so. But yeah, the next tenant could, with a DRB application, with a DRB site, they can basically occupy the same area, the same footprint essentially of that sign. So they would be allowed a large rectangular canned sign in that area without having to come to us. And that may be 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. But that is something that if we approved it like that, then forever, unless the next occupant, or actually this tenant could replace it with a rectangular sign there, or just.
Would they though? If it was recorded as 188 square feet, I don't think that the rectangle would have to be.
I don't
188
think
square feet.
there could be a staff decision. I think it would still be recorded as what it is, because Title 20 is Title 20. It has to be, for future DRB usage. I think we would have something to stand on. But I'm saying the sign permit would say it's a 420 square foot sign.
Would it?
Correct.
And that's
It would be what it is is, yeah.
And I understand, I get that.
Well, that's a drag. So I was hoping that it wouldn't be, that the sign permit would be for a 188 square foot sign, and that the rest of this yellow would be an architectural treatment part of the building. But,
I'd like to discuss.
Brandon.
What Ryan and I are discussing, kind of going off Katie's suggestion with the horizontal banding. What if we were to suggest, instead of having corner pieces and then the void between the centerpiece and the corner, if it was a big yellow band wrapping from left to right, and it would, I think, look more of an architectural feature and part of the facade rather than, because I'm really stuck on this option A as that centerpiece being viewed as a sign. But if it were all yellow, as a yellow band, and that way they could do the flat metal yellow on top of the corrugated and have that continuous wrap all the way around, I think that would appease both the applicant and us. It wouldn't set us up, that we would require the letters to get smaller to be in compliance and wrap the building in the yellow.
So I had suggested that in the beginning, that we wrapped it around.
It was suggested, but I believe if the panel that's on the building now were essentially elongated left to right, that would just make a larger sign, technically.
Again, it's hard to know
If it's-
exactly how we would judge that.
Okay.
If somebody, I don't know, honestly.
Okay. That would be my concern then. There could be, I could see it going either way, but because the background behind the sign is different than,
I think though,
Yeah.
like, if we approve this, we would say, we approve a 188 square foot sign with the condition that there is a aluminum yellow band around there. And then we're not approving a 488 square foot sign, we're approving a 188 square foot sign with this yellow architectural adornment. So that's so it would be, the permit would be for a 188 because that's what we approved.
I agree with you. In theory, I agree with you in theory, and there's a condition that we could make that that even says if staff is able to, by code, consider this a 188 square foot sign, then this is what we want.
Yeah.
We can do that. If that doesn't work, then essentially we wouldn't be approving anything. It would default to, and that would be a decision that's probably made tomorrow with supervisors. So we can absolutely do that as a condition, because I see what we're trying to get at. I see that as we're trying to make the applicant happy, we're trying to make us like the design, and we're trying to watch our butts in the future. Not just that, but we're trying to protect ourselves with future future ones that just we don't want to give 400 square foot signs to.
Would the applicant be in favor of that solution?
Can I see it?
So now you're talking about a complete yellow band around the building?
In theory. Yeah, and if you guys want to, there's a quick sketch.
Can I see it?
So can Ryan?
Yeah, please come up.
Ryan,
Brandon,
go ahead
would
and withdraw
would you
his-
put a little bit of mulberry
yeah.
on the top and
So that we
bottom,
can open up to.
just for contrast?
So, gray at the bottom, green at the top, and yellow in the middle.
I
See,
would say
corrugated
that's a
steel?
lot like Holiday Village, which is right over by you. All of their spaces have the silver corrugated, which none of that is considered the sign. Although it is on every space there. It's an architectural band.
Yeah,
Or
no.
a sign band. I mean, I think it would be very similar to that.
I think that's a good comparison. Brandon.
Wrapping the sides of the building, it becomes more integrated into the building rather than applique.
Yeah.
On one side, it's wrapping the sides, so you can make the argument this is an architectural feature because it's coming around the sides.
Do we
Continual band.
know roughly how far forward the facade comes for? You know, are we talking 5 feet, 10 feet?
It's all of 10, maybe 12.
Okay, but so to me, you guys tell me if I'm wrong. To me, that's deep enough to make an impact. It's not, it's not a 24-inch little
Oh, you're talking about the sign.
nook there, but it's deep enough to actually show that it's wrapping around, which is what we're trying to accomplish.
So for clarification, would we be saying band and smaller letters or band and the larger letters?
Oh, well, depend on what you guys say.
My feeling would be that the band must be in scale to what the letters are. You know, like we don't, because the thought of us, these little letters swimming in a big yellow pool is terrible to me.
I think this one, whatever size those are, fit.
If we recommended for reduction in sign size from 188 to 148, it's about a 20% reduction. If I'm doing that right.
Yeah, 21%.
Thank you. So we need to be aware of that. I mean, we are aware that if we recommend something that isn't liked, that's what we're getting is a 21% reduction. What is the height, or what is the size of the panel that's up there right now?
12 feet.
12 by, well, I guess it doesn't matter.
There's 5, 7 by 12 panels.
Yeah, 35 by 12.
Okay. Thank you. And so, folks, currently we are at the thumbs up PF logo is 10 feet high. I am guessing a 20% reduction then would be an 8-foot logo, so you'd have essentially 2 feet of space on each side, or top and bottom.
But the sign's already made though, so.
We actually we only have one logo. We're going to reduce the size of the letters if that's required.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
The proportion will get thrown off as well, but. Thank you.
We can't, but he can. We have a second, but we've just been discussing. So yeah. No, you're totally right. Yeah.
I guess I'll withdraw my motion.
Okay. Motion withdrawn. Thank you. Kyle.
I think you know where I'm going, Matt.
I don't really, but I'm too confused.
I'm going to make the motion that we approve option A, which is, because that's not what's presented, I need to describe it. It is the yellow aluminum panels wrapped as a full band around the gray corrugated steel. That is a height of 12 feet for the whole frontage and the sides. And then we approve the 188 square foot sign channel letter package.
Would you remove the third recommendation from staff then?
And remove the third recommendation from staff. And ask that the applicant keeps the corrugated steel gray.
Well, that can just be a condition.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, as a condition.
Okay.
So with
there's more.
the recommendation that staff considers this a 188 square foot sign for the permit, and that it goes on record as a 188 square foot sign because the yellow aluminum panels are an architectural feature.
The end? Okay, we have a motion, we have a long motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second from Kate. Do we have discussion?
I would support that motion.
Okay. All right. Just making sure there's no more discussion.
It's the smaller set of letters, so.
Well,
It's 125 square feet.
he'll do what he can. Yeah. So we have a second. Kyle, would you,
Can't do this later.
would you want to add, or would you accept the addition? Do you want to amend your?
I think I would add on to my motion to say that if upon staff review, if they decide this is a sign that's in excess of 188, for example, the 420, that this variance not be approved. Not
Okay. That the application be
that the
denied.
application be
Okay.
denied. Yeah.
All right. I will second that, and I have a question for Sean. Does that sound legitimate, or is there a better way?
I think that should be fine. I just want to confirm the motion, as
Please.
there are several. Hold on. Okay, let me just read you what I typed up, and we'll see if this
Thank you.
is what you are looking for. So it would be approving option A, which is yellow aluminum panels wrapped as a band around the corrugated metal at a height of 12 feet on the frontage and sides, with approval of the 180 square foot channel letter sign package, removing the third recommendation of staff, and asking that the applicant keep the corrugated steel gray. With another recommendation that staff consider this on record, 188 square foot sign for the permit, as the yellow panels will be considered an architectural feature. With another recommendation that if staff review discovers that the sign is in excess of 188 square feet, then the application shall be denied. After this meeting, I can clean that up so it sounds so it's more grammatically correct. But does that cover everything?
I want to clarify just a couple things because it's official.
Mm-hmm.
That all of those are actually conditions versus requests, except for it's a request that staff limit or that it's request that staff consider it a 188 square foot sign, but everything else is a condition.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, we have second, we have clarification, we have discussion.
Yeah, I guess I'd ask you, Kyle, do you think, given that motion, that channel letters that met code with a proportional yellow band would be insufficient?
I do, because the applicant doesn't have a smaller PF logo. So it'd be this large PF logo, thumbs up, smaller letter. So whereas I feel like this 188 square foot package that they propose kind of fits with the logo and fits with the front of the building. Possibly.
Is there an example of that you're looking at?
There's on the applicant provided signs of the clubs that he owns. There just shows some different sized logos versus
right.
text.
Where the PF logo is bigger than the...
Yeah, somewhere it's smaller and in line, somewhere it's bigger. I'm not too worried about a bigger logo sign and smaller letters. I also, new one can be fabricated. We talk about this a lot when signs are prefabricated before coming here, where it's kind of a do-it-your-own risk type of thing. And we want to be accommodating, and usually we are. Further discussion, sorry.
I just have
Blake.
one point. Should we have clarification on what's going on the back of the building?
Yeah, I'm trying to ask that question. So.
I'd be happy to do that for you.
Okay. You may either ask Kyle to change his motion, or you may ask him if you can amend it. And
I think we should probably amend it to
Okay.
include the back of the building. And I don't know much beyond that right now, because I'm just thinking of if we're going with the smaller letters on the front, which I don't advise, then maybe we need, I just want to open that.
and the motion does have the larger letters on the front. And I don't think they do either, yeah.
Rendition. We have a rendition.
This is what's there now,
No, this is, okay.
okay, in the back. All right, the easiest thing to do was just paint it yellow and put our letters on there. And that's what we proposed, and we don't have a logo for the back.
What, staff, what's the zoning to the
148,
east? Is it residential?
same as the front.
It's MT4, but there is a residential building.
Okay. And, no, go ahead, Kyle.
The other box stores there, Best Buy, Barnes & Noble, they got signs in the rear of the building.
I believe that there's one for Best Buy.
They all do, they all do.
Best Buy, Barnes and Noble does.
Does Barnes have it on 3 sides?
Honestly, I'm not
Just
sure
the
of
two,
that.
I think.
2,
Best
okay,
Buy
thank you.
for sure. Staples obviously did.
Staples did have a small one. I would,
It was as large as the front sign, actually.
really, well, sorry, the red facade was much
Letter,
smaller.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm, yeah, since we're looking at backgrounds. I would suggest that it's painted gray versus yellow, just to mute it some, because there are homes back there. We can dictate whether it's lit or not. Staples was lit previously, so if that was, I believe, so if Staples was lit previously, I'm okay with this one being lit as well, which is as proposed.
I agree, and I think the gray would provide some continuity on the corrugated portion of stuff
Since the corrugated on the front will not be yellow. Right, but I mean, the corrugated on the front would be gray, not yellow. So the back should be gray and not yellow as well. The corrugated part. To be gray. Sean, did you catch that?
The condition of the red metal on the back being painted gray, being added to the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Gray to match the front, got it.
And I forget if we have to, but I will second that. Kate,
Do we also have to say how long the lights can be illuminated?
we can, if you guys,
Because they face public, right?
we don't have to, but we can.
Are you gonna have a special amount of time that the lights are gonna be illuminated?
Just at night.
For the rear sign?
Yeah.
I mean, is it overnight or?
We're open 24 hours a
Okay.
day.
Oh, you are, oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to you guys. We put conditions on that very frequently.
You're not gonna get a lot of light. The mulberry is gonna be very muted, and then you're gonna get the halo, a couple inches of halo
Yeah.
light. It's not gonna be a big obnoxious sign by any means.
I'm not terribly concerned about,
Besides all the boulevard trees, I mean, you can only see it through the certain entrance to the back there.
and I think that's one of the 2 places in town that has streetlights anyway. So no, I'm not too concerned. I'm not too concerned with that part. It isn't going to be oversized, so there is that.
Actually, Lambros is directly behind it. The apartments are
behind it.
down to the
Okay.
right a little ways.
Okay,
So there's commercial directly behind it.
thank you.
It's the same metal corrugated,
there.
they got backlit signs, they got stuff.
All right, further discussion. We have many motions out there. We have one motion with a lot of things out there. If there is no further discussion, I will call for a roll call vote then.
So what was the square footage of the letters on the front?
The requested 188.
188? Thank you.
Are we ready for the vote?
Yes, when
Okay.
you are. Yeah.
I have a question for the chair, though.
Yes, sir.
As this is the first meeting where we are missing a regular board member, but we have our alternate, is the alternate eligible to vote? The bylaws don't specify.
Oh, it should. Yeah, the alternate is absolutely seated in the place of Sheena, and so
Okay.
she is available to vote as well.
I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Does anybody need me to clarify the motion before we vote?
Yeah, I think, read it one more time.
Okay.
If you could, please.
I'll try and clean it up grammatically as I go. So the motion is to approve option A, yellow aluminum panels wrapped as a band around the corrugated metal at a height of 12 feet on the frontage and sides, with the approval of the 180 square foot channel letter sign package, removing the third recommendation of staff, with the condition that the applicant keep the corrugated metal gray. The condition that, oh, hold on, let me scroll, sorry. With the condition that if staff determines the sign is over 188 square feet, then the application shall be denied. Another condition that the red metal on the back be painted to match the gray on the front of the building, and the recommendation that staff consider this on record a 188 square foot sign for the permit with the yellow panels as an architectural feature.
Thanks, Sean. I'd just like to clarify, I think you might have said 180 square feet,
Oh, I'm sorry, I meant 188.
88. Okay.
Okay, that's what I have written down as 188. Great,
Excellent.
perfect. Okay, so now we'll vote.
He did. He did, yes.
Yep, I have that on there.
Right now, you're done.
Okay.
Great, okay.
All
right.
When you're ready,
Ready?
Sean.
You stretched them for sure.
Okay, Kate Lickfin,
Yes,
Dennis Lippert,
Yes.
Matt Loomis,
No.
Kyle Gochi,
Yes.
Ryan Smith,
No.
Brandon Prinzing,
Yes.
and Blake Nicolazzo.
Yes.
All right, so I think that passes, yes?
That should pass.
Yes, great.
Okay. Thank you to the board. Thank you to the applicant.
Thank you.
Good luck to staff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on quickly to old business. Is there any old business?
I have something that's not quite old business, as it was only mentioned at the previous meeting.
That's old.
I guess.
Okay.
The city will be moving forward with digital packets. It won't be immediate. It won't be until the next fiscal year. But an update on that is tablets will be provided at every meeting. So that way you will have the packet in front of you, as well as it will be emailed to you and be available on Sire. That will happen in July at the soonest, but you know, it's government, so it moves kind of slow.
Thank you for adding that last part. Oh, while I collect myself. Okay. Hang on here. Hang on. Okay. Any new business? Seeing none. Any comments from board members? Yeah.
I'd just like to thank everybody for working through this one. This was one of the most difficult ones I've been involved in my 4 or 5 years being on the board, and so especially when I don't appreciate being presented with do this or I'm doing this type of scenario.
Thank you for saying that.
And I imagine that's probably why you said no.
But I wasn't 100% sold on it, but I'm okay with the decision because I like how we came to it. And I honestly, I thought this was going to be 20 minutes.
What do you do? I was like, Valentine's Day, Ash Wednesday, let's get out of here. But,
So I echo Kyle. Thank you for saying that. I had a neighborhood meeting recently where it was not similar, but something very that it got people talking, and we're gonna spend some time on this because we're gonna come to an agreement, and it was really satisfying at the end. Even the people that just want to show up and leave really hung in there, and they felt heard, and I hope you guys all felt heard, and I appreciate the teamwork here. I appreciate one other person saying no with me. It helps me out. But I am happy with how it works out. I hope it's not more extra work than it's already going to be, but I look forward to finding out what happens, really. And I know there are staff, I forget what they call them, but there's basically staff decisions that they can make to kind of wiggle and override a little bit. No, I think this is awesome. Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, can I have, would someone like to adjourn? We need a first, we need a second.
I'll move to adjourn.
and I'll second.
Second. All in favor, please say yay.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. We are adjourned.